Catching, I'd say Saginaw Valley State. They're the best catching team in the country. They have some insane catchers on their team, so keep an eye out for them when it comes to catching.
And then Felix, Jacob, do you have any weigh in on that, or do you want to let Kevin kind of speak for you guys?
I think Kevin's answers are good.
Yeah, same. Kevin nailed it all.
Well, thanks.
All right, that's the last compliment you get.
How many more can you rake in before you
Settle down there?
Done. We're done. That's never happening again.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dodgeball Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be conducting kind of like a precap, for lack of better words, of the NCDA championships. And joining me are Jacob Leski, Felix Perrone, and Kevin Bailey. Guys, thank you so much for hopping on and being willing to do this and kind of, again, helping me shed more light on the NCDA, if I may be so bold. And let's just start with some introductions. Starting with you, Jacob. Why don't you just go ahead and give us your name, your role with the NCDA, your elite team, if it's applicable, and your NCDA team.
Hey, so thanks for having me. So I'm in charge of recruitment and retention for the NCDA. So essentially, my job is to find new schools and help them through the process. It's actually a lot more intense than people realize. We'll get into that later. And then in terms for elite team, I played for the Columbus Gamecocks in my third season, and then NCDA I played for for Central Michigan University.
Nice. Okay, and Felix.
Hey, I'm Felix Perrone. I'm the president of the NCDA. I'm on my second term. This will be my last term per our bylaws, so my reign will end June 30th. I've been with the NCDA since 2008. And in an administrative role since about 2010. I'm with the Columbus Gamecocks for Elite. And then for the NCDA, I was at Western Kentucky University from 2008 to 2014 when I was getting my bachelor's and master's.
Which you totally changed to benefit the NCDA, right?
Oh, yeah,
People
definitely.
remember from our conversation last year. I'll kind of get into that too, just kind of to get into that. But last but not least, Kevin.
Yeah, my name is Kevin Bailey, and thank you for having us on here. We appreciate it. And I'm the Chief of Content for the NCDA, so what I'm in charge of is all the content that goes on our website, on our social media channels, and we've got some exciting new things coming up that we'll talk about later involving our live streaming for nationals. So in my elite team, I'm on Grand Rapids Dynasty, and back when I was in college, I played at Grand Valley State University.
Grand Rapids Dynasty. Never heard of them.
Yeah, they're a bunch of scrubs.
Yeah.
Nobody likes them.
Yeah, they're terrible people. I don't know if you guys heard the recap of North, but I guess you guys were cheered when you guys lost the 8.5 division.
We are well aware of that. Yes.
Yeah, are there any hard feelings about that? It sucks when you're being cheered against, but I
think it's a really good motivator.
Yeah.
When people are kind of cheering against you, it means that they think highly of you. So it's a good motivator to try and stay where you're at the top, I guess, or
sure.
get back to the top in this.
Oh, my
situation.
God.
I have to, because you're both on here. Felix, I don't know if you're responsible for it, but the condom prank that you played last nationals was legendary. That was I couldn't. You mentioned you guys have this meme war and you guys exchange blows and there's this rivalry, but I had no idea. I won't say you'd stoop to that, but you'd be that creative. And I hope in a good way it's motivating other teams to kind of share that friendly banter and just be more creative. It was hysterical. I still can't get over it.
I hope so. We enjoy doing it because as you know, dodgeball is supposed to be fun, so we try to keep it lighthearted. A lot of people take it very seriously, and we just want to have a good time with our friends, and then also with Dynasty too. So it's a good time.
And I hope that's what I mean. I hope it's all in good fun. No one gets their feelings hurt, and it just adds another element to the dodgeball community and their competitive aspect. It's I'm sure the pros do it in conventional sports all the time. So. I just had to shout that out. But I want to go back to you, Jacob. So just to kind of give you guys you guys being the panelists and people that might be tuning in for the first time or might have missed the NCDA episode that we covered last year with Kevin and Felix, we kind of gave like a crash course / 101 of the NCDA, kind of talked about where it began, kind of where it was back then. And then, Jake, you reached out to me, I think a couple weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago, asking to kind of talk about the championships, and timing just worked out really well that we were able to do so right as we're coming into this weekend with the championships. But and I don't want to sound too blunt, but why? Like, what was the main motivation behind that, if you don't mind me asking?
I think we have a bad rap. I really do. I think it's that simple. I've noticed in the 3 years I've played Elite, we kind of there's a negative connotation with us, and I've never really understood why. And maybe it's because I'm from the North and I'm extremely biased, but I understand that I don't want to get on a tangent with this whole ball type thing, but I mean, we're all playing dodgeball. I mean, whether what you like or you don't like, it's still the same sport. And I don't know, the way I look at it is we should all be supporting each other. And I find it extremely interesting that no one is interested in the NCDA. And I mean, we're the feeders for the future. So why wouldn't you want to back us up? That's pretty much my main draw.
That's interesting. I wouldn't, that caught me off guard. I'm not gonna lie. Because the way I look at you guys, especially walking away from the interview last year and just knowing about you guys since like my humble beginnings back in 2006, 2004, when I looked you guys up, like I would never assume the NCDA would have a bad rap of any kind. I kind of want to dig into that, but that might be kind of more towards the end with the crowdsourced questions that we received. But yeah, so I appreciate that, and I appreciate you guys coming on to talk about it more. Quick question though, for you, Felix, just as I was listening to that, you know, you being part of USA Dodgeball now, I think when we last spoke, it was still kind of new, but obviously it's taken off and it's been established. Would you kind of echo what Jacob was saying, or has there been like a shift in the perception of NCDA?
I think it just really goes down to, I mean, everybody has their favorite ball type, and people who don't like pinch, they don't really understand the draw to the NCDA. So I don't know if it's so much of a us versus them mentality or anything like that, where they hate us or they don't really like us. I think it's more just they don't really understand why we want to step into the gauntlet, as it's been called, with pinch rubber. Pinch rubber has just always had this more extreme connotation, and so we have gotten a lot of support from outsiders for the NCDA. So like, you have been great. Tyler Greer has reached out to us a few times asking for some additional information. There's been outreach from the Canadian groups asking for our ranking algorithms that we've created for season ratings and rankings of teams. I think it's more just where there's a lot of dodgeball voices on the West Coast and the East Coast. The Midwesterners were generally more quiet anyways. So I just don't think people know enough about us. So that's kind of why I was excited to do this, and why I'm so happy that you were willing to do this and excited to do this podcast. Is I just want to be able to introduce people to the NCDA on neutral ground, tell them a little bit about ourselves, our history, why we do things the way we do them, and hopefully clear any ambiguity and make everyone understand that we love dodgeball just as much as everyone else. We just do it at a different level.
Nice. Yeah. At the end of the day, we're all playing dodgeball, and I know I like to rag on foam as much as I do, being an 8.5 believer myself, but I can appreciate, always will, the fact that dodgeball is still being played in some capacity. So I definitely echo that. And before I move on to some of the follow-on questions, Kevin, do you kind of share the same sentiment as well, or how has your perception changed over the last year?
I would kind of echo what Felix said. It sort of, the challenge for us is just getting our format of dodgeball out there and showing people what we're all about as college dodgeball. And I know that it's not something that we've been able to do to our best abilities in the past in terms of the type of video content that we have, and just being able to show everyone exactly what our game is all about. So yeah, I think that that's one of the motivations for why we are here on this podcast, and also as we're going to mention later with the exciting news we have with our live stream for nationals this year, I think that there are a lot of things that we are doing that's going to really help people see what our actual on-court product is and why college dodgeball is so exciting the way that we have it right now, and see how much passion the student athletes have and how much they care about the sport, and just how exciting it is for the students and the fans that are there watching. So yeah, very exciting time for the NCDA right now, because we have a lot of things going in our favor in terms of, you know, getting our type of dodgeball out there and showing people what we're all about. So
nice. Yeah, I mean, you kind of mentioned something that I wanted to kind of go back on. I don't want to say I kind of cheated, but I kind of studied. I listened to the episode that we recorded last year on the way up here, and I just want to go over some of the things that really stood out in my mind in terms of like how established this organization is. So Felix, you had mentioned you guys already have or have had the 501c3 status, which is not an easy feat by any means. It takes a lot of time, money, and just knowledge of what you're doing to get that, to be a full-fledged nonprofit. You mentioned that you had sponsorships both in travel, and I forgot what apparel that you had mentioned. Savage. I wanted to say Supreme. I was like, no, that's not the one. But Savage Apparel. And you boasted 52 teams last year and over 800 members. So it's, for me to even think that this organization would be overlooked in any capacity is just, it's wrong. It's a sin. There's so much that you guys have accomplished and so much awesome best practices that I think you can share. Kind of like what you were saying, I think, Jacob, with sharing your algorithms and whatnot with Canadian leagues and people that are reaching out. There's a lot here that we can benefit. And for me personally, I don't want to sound weird, but as an older player, it's really motivating for me to see young players come in, because I know that when I'm done, the sport's going to continue. It's kind of this like weird, like, I don't want all of my 12, 13 years of dodgeball playing to end because people stop playing in 2021. It would just seem strange if that's what happened. But to see that it's going to continue on after I exit, it's got a weird kind of sense of like comfort. I don't know if older players can identify with that, but it's all of it seems encouraging. You guys play pinch. You guys are crazy. That's fine. You guys can show, from my experience last year with nationals, that you guys can conform to our 6v6, 8.5 non-pinch rules and do fairly well. So we'll definitely get into that too. But I didn't mean to veer off too much. Have you guys grown since last year? I'm not sure who could take this one, but kind of talking about the 52 teams last year, has that expanded at all since 2018?
Yeah, so I can take that one. So, I mean, I am the director of recruitment and retention. And so, we've grown, but the big thing that we really focus on this year, and I'm looking forward to sharing this more with our captains, and is we really focus on retention this year. We're at a really good number right now. We have some schools that are more active than others, obviously, but it's been a good year for us in the fact that we're trying to really get the teams that aren't as involved more involved. Believe it or not, the thing that's most difficult about recruitment is really keeping teams around. I mean, when you're in college, you have so many opportunities and so many different things that you can do that it's easy to lose sight of something like club dodgeball. I mean, so we really have to always find ways to keep people involved, and usually it's the ones that really love the sport. And so I think the big thing for us really has been finding those that have passion for dodgeball in the league and getting them more involved. Our staff has grown from I had only one assistant last year to now I have 4 that work under me and work with teams separately. And so in teams, we got 2 new teams this year in Western Michigan University and Cincinnati, which is our lowest. The past 2 years before that, we had 9 teams and 7 teams. So it was a little bit of a drop-off this year, but that's what we were expecting.
Don't forget about Ball State also, our first Indiana school.
Oh, that was huge. Yeah, that was last season.
A great name for a dodgeball school there.
Ball State, absolutely. But the big thing for us last year, really, though, was the previous 2 years we were expanding south with 2 new Georgia schools. Last year we got a Florida school for the first time. And previous to that, we expanded out to the West Coast, which maybe seems slow, but those teams are still very active in their fields of dodgeball, attending things like the Seattle Classic and competing in foam leagues around. And that's the thing. We encourage them to play in not just 8.5 leagues, but just dodgeball in general. But also, it's really been big because Ball State and we also got West Virginia. They really connect most of our schools together.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to Kevin Fry. He's kind of been working with me on the Ball Stay aspect and talk about like a perfect play on names. Ball State, Ball Stay, and now NCDA as part of a team. He's an awesome guy, and I think I don't want to deviate too much, but I feel like people like him are going to be the difference between make or break when it comes to new expansion teams. And I can kind of go into that later on towards the close because I have a question specifically for you, Jacob, in my experience and trying to help recruit. So we'll definitely cover that later. But
shout out to Kevin Fry. He started a club, last year, and it's one of our average 40 people at times, 40 people at practice, which is amazing.
That's awesome. That kid hustles. Him and his buddy Keegan. I got to meet them during nationals. They are fantastic people. And again, when I look at the future of dodgeball, like that's what I want to see. People that are willing to put the work in because they found something they love and they want to share it, and it just helps us all. Kind of want to dive right into the championships, but let me think for a second here because you guys both mentioned a lot of questions I kind of just want to veer off to, and I get like this ADD, like, oh man, I want to ask this question, I want to go down this rabbit hole.
Hey, I could touch on something you talked about earlier. You talked about worrying about the sport and making sure that it's not going to die. And after so many years that you've put into it, I want to make you feel old because it makes me feel old. About a seventh of the NCDA has been born after the year 2000.
Oh my God.
Isn't that terrible?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is, but hey, we're here to witness it and still kind of get into the court with these young monsters. So
yeah,
and I was gonna call you out. I was gonna say myself and you, Felix. I know you and I both started in the same year. We're like the class of 2004. But I didn't want to throw you out there. But you kind of self-identified yourself as old. So you're in this boat.
I'm definitely an old guy. As most people saw last year at nationals, I threw my back out, bending over to pick up a ball in between games, and it was the worst. And that's just what happens.
I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, I think unfortunately now the older you get, you wake up and you're like, all right, what part of my body is not going to work today? And that's just the way it is post 30. But actually, real quick, Kevin, are you're still recovering from an injury, right?
Yeah, I've got a little issue with my elbow, forearm, but I'll hopefully be playing at round 2. Might be a little limited, but get back into it.
Yeah. All right, well, kudos and props to you, man, for sitting it out and not making it worse. You don't want to end up like some of the older guys that are going to have just perpetual pain because they're not taking care of themselves. Utilize that recovery time while you can. Well, let's go ahead and talk about some of the differences again, just kind of comparing last year versus this year. And we kind of talked about some of the growth a little bit, some of the expansion. One of the things I wanted to ask, and Felix, this may be more for you because I think you have kind of like a dual role, but how would you say Elite Dodgeball, USA Dodgeball, and the NCDA all complement each other? Like the assumption is it goes really well and they feed off each other, but can you kind of elaborate on what that relationship's been like this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's great to see, especially in the North, and then we're starting on the East Coast as well, where we're seeing a lot of NCDA alumni and even current players. They're starting to pick up Elite, and it's great practice for them because the last thing you want to do in the off season is get rusty. So we've noticed that some of our best NCDA players, like Tom Moran, for instance, he plays for Ohio Legacy and also for Miami University, and he's quickly become one of the better players in the NCDA. And he's mentioned several times how much Elite has helped with that. It's a shorter court, quicker, shorter throw lines. When you step onto an NCDA court after an entire summer of Elite, the court scene. I mean, the court is huge. It's 3 times the size. You have much more time to react to the ball. It's amazing what 5 feet of difference will make. So we've been able to complement Elite, I believe, especially in the North. Every team except for the teams based in Minnesota and the new team family from Indianapolis, they have at least one NCDA player on their team. And so we've grown a lot. We've kind of taken over the Elite North. And with the East Coast, we're seeing teams pop up, especially coming out of Towson University, Virginia Commonwealth University, University of Virginia. Those teams are starting to field elite squads and just kind of getting a feel for it. Every NCDA team has a rough first year, especially when it comes to open, because it's almost like playing with a handicap because you're not used to not squeezing the ball. But the older guys that have been playing in Elite for 3-4 seasons, they'll all say the same thing, in that they're starting to like open. Not so much more than pinch, but almost at that same level, which if you had asked me when I started Elite 4 years ago, I never would have said that.
It's starting to like grow on players, and once they stick it out past that like first rough showing or that first year, they can kind of see, okay, I can kind of hang here. I may not be able to pinch like I normally used to, but I can adapt.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, as soon as you get the throwing style down, then you're golden. And honestly, it's just a completely different style of play. The NCDA with the larger court, it's more tactical. You can use plays. You can, I would say it's more team oriented than Elite. I really firmly believe that 2 players on an Elite team can make a world of difference. The difference of getting in first place and getting in second or getting in last. But with the NCDA, you rely much more heavily on your squad. And you have to, because with 12 versus 12, there's a lot of potential liabilities there.
Definitely that, and plus the games are a lot longer, right? There's it goes into like halves, I think, like 20-minute halves or
25-minute halves.
Right. Yeah, so there's a lot of fatigue probably setting in, and you really got to rely on your buddies, your teammates to kind of carry you through those matches. They seem epic, just in scope and distance, and the fact that, again, they're all pinch throws, so these balls are coming at you pretty fast, regardless if you got an extra 5 feet or whatnot. Is it fair to say, and this is kind of like, I won't say it's an unfair question, and maybe all of you guys can chime in. Do the NCDA teams or players look to Elite as like the next step? Like, is it the next level to them, or especially now that UDC's kind of out of the picture, rest in peace? Is that a fair assumption to make? Or is there still work to be done? I
definitely think so. There's definitely some hesitation there, just because it's something new, it's something different. There's some people that just have flat out said, I'll never try it because it's not the NCDA. And at that, they're just being stubborn and ignorant, to be honest. And I'll tell them that to their face.
Right.
It is the next step. There are potential areas where areas of improvement that Elite could adopt, but I mean, honestly, like, that's what's in place right now. And if you want to continue playing dodgeball after graduation, that's what you got to do. There are a lot of cases where people are playing dodgeball in college to hang out with their friends and just to be able to do something unique. But as soon as they graduate, they'll never touch a ball again. And I think that's really sad. But I think that's with anything. There's a lot of people that I played soccer with in high school that they didn't play after we graduated, and it was something to do at the time, and then they found something else after graduation.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, you can't expect every single recruit to move on to Elite, and it kind of reminds me of like this not joke or like the way I would explain retention for when I ran Tucson Dodgeball. Like, I would get, say, 10 people showed up to an open gym. Of those 10 people, 7 might come back and play in a league. Of that 7, 4 might come back for like a second season, and then of that 4, like, you'll get one Brett Baxter, you'll get one person that's just die hard. I want to go all the way to compete, travel, and you just got to work the numbers. And people that come in and play and step off, that's just their that's just their own dodgeball journey, I guess. It's all about fun and recreation. Not everybody wants to go the distance, so to speak. But how about you, Kevin? What would your thoughts be? Would you, in your experience, would you say Elite's the next step for NCDA players?
Yeah, I'm sort of in the same boat as Felix regarding that. It's obviously a challenge for us to get all of these different college students to commit to playing on an elite team, but it's part of the fun of it is, us trying to get those players from our league and get them to move on to the next step and be able to play in elite. And I know all of the alumni that I know that play in elite, they've come to enjoy it just the same as NCDA. It's still dodgeball. It's still so much fun, and just being able to compete in this crazy, unique sport that we have, it's a privilege to have the ability to do that after graduating college. So I hope that more of the college kids sort of come around to that and realize that there is an outlet outside of the NCDA for them to be able to play dodgeball, and that they should have an open mind to it, even if it's not the specific format that they're most used to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, it's not the end of the world. It may not be your specific style play, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's still dodgeball.
Exactly.
And how about you, Jacob? I mean, especially coming from the recruiting aspect, do you see Elite as being the next step for current incoming potential recruits, players?
Yeah, I mean, that's excuse me. I would say, especially for those like the Kevin Fries and the Tom Morans, and the Brandon Measles, however you say his last name, I always screwed up. But anyway, really, those are the ones that we know are going to do it. They always find a way to get involved and stay involved. Our big challenge is really, and I know we want to work with, and Elite's been great with us about, the leaders of Elite, about working with us on this stuff. But it's like you said, there's all these different opportunities to do different things. So, like you said, those that are really interested and that just love dodgeball usually always come through. It's really those outliers, the ones that we really need to work with, and it just takes time. But yeah, I definitely agree with Kevin and Felix. They really hit it right on that.
For sure. Yeah, and again, not to rag on UDC, but like, what else you got out there post dodgeball or post college? I mean, you can do rec leagues, I guess, if that's your thing. But if you want to get to the next competitive level, Elite's where it's at. So,
absolutely.
Let's talk about competition, and I wanted to say kind of like what initially brought me to this panel, and that was just the championships that are coming up. So by the time this airs, it'll probably be Thursday because I'll be MIA on Friday. So for those that are listening, the championships are going to be happening, this weekend. But let's start with just, which one is this? Is this the 14th annual or
15th annual?
15th. Awesome.
Yep. Yeah, the first one was in 2005.
Do you remember how many teams were there by chance?
At the first one, there were, I think, 3 teams.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Michigan State, Delta Community College. Ooh, maybe Saginaw Valley. I'll look.
And then Ohio State.
I got all the records. Ohio State. That's
State
what it was.
Was the team that won.
OSU. It looks like, they took 2005, 2006. And are you serious? GVSU took 2007 to... No. Okay, I was reading this wrong. Okay, so for those of you listening, I'm looking at the... I guess this is like the single banners with multiple years. So GVSU might be the team that has shown the strongest. Is that fair to say?
That would be fair.
Yeah, they've won. They have the opportunity to go on a 7-peat, I think, this year.
Correct.
7-peat, dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at Doom. They had their 6-peat. That was where they capped off. So this should be a pretty big deal. I would say that's a record for a competitive dodgeball showing on a national championship standpoint. How many, real quick, Kevin, how many players came from GVSU that play for Dynasty?
Everyone on our team besides Colin O'Brien played for Grand Valley. We stole Colin. He went to Michigan State. So he was our rival in college, but teammates now.
Nice. And could this in any way be why you guys are called Dynasty? Did that have any like influence on that coming from GVSU?
Good catch. That is the exact reason, actually. And
nice.
People usually don't ask, like no one asks us about that, but yeah, that is kind of where play on words there, why we called ourselves Dynasty.
Please don't boost his ego.
Nobody really cares about them. They're just
no one likes us.
Please.
I mean, I'm kind of proud that I made that connection. Go me.
That was impressive.
At the expense of you guys, but not Kevin. So I mean, Jesus, look at this.
It's a long day. Please don't make it longer.
Fair enough. We'll move on because I'm sure that'll be brought up again when we talk about like who to look out for. But
that's fine.
Steve, I unfortunately lost to Kevin in a championship twice. So
ouch.
Every time it's brought up, it's like a little stab wound.
Just sprinkling salt and lemon on that. My apologies.
I never lost to Kevin on the NCDA court. I can say that proudly.
Now, is that because you avoided him or because you actually went toe-to-toe and won?
No. We just never played them.
Yeah, see, I'm on a roll. It's 2 for 2. Subtleties I picked up on. But so 2005, you guys went from 3 teams. 2019, I think you said so you have 54 teams, but are all of them going to make it to nationals?
No, so we have – sorry, go ahead, guys.
I was just going to say, I mean, this is a down year for us. But, I mean, in the past, we've had as many as 24, I believe. But go ahead, Felix.
Yeah, we had 22 this year. There were 27 enrolled, and then there's been the craziest situations that have happened that for the last 5 teams that have dropped out over the last few weeks. One of the universities, half of their starting roster is in the same bachelor's program, and they all have their capstone presentations to defend their thesis that weekend. And so that kept them out. There's been clubs that they've gotten in trouble by their university, and it's been a crazy time. But 22 teams this year, that's still the second most that we've had at nationals. Last year was the largest with 24. And I do have to correct myself. In 2005, we had 5 teams: Michigan State, Ohio State, Delta Community College, Kent, and DePaul University.
Nice. DePaul. I remember looking up you guys' website way back in the day. I think I even talked to Alexander a couple of times, and I just was so jealous of the colleges over there. And for some reason, DePaul just stood out as a memory. Yeah, kind of random fact there. But so you said enrolled. Okay, so 24 are showing up, 27 are enrolled. What does that mean? Enrolled? That means you.
So sorry. 27 teams had expressed interest in coming into nationals, and
Gotcha.
they had every intention of coming. There were some schools that just said, "Hey guys, we're not going to be able to make it this year." This year we had 34 active teams, and 27 of them said, "Yes, we are interested in coming to nationals." But we have 22 that have actually committed, paid their entry fee, submitted their rosters. Had their rosters verified by the university because we have to do that as well.
Dang.
And they'll be there as well.
So not to pick on anybody, Oregon State University, are they an active team or are they kind of part of the bigger number where are they active? Let me just ask that.
Yeah. So they're actually they didn't compete against another school this year. And that's just how it is. I mean, they're extremely active. They're not among those 34, but they are in terms of they're very active. They're still an NCDA team. They just compete in different formats. Gonzaga's pretty far away from them. We're working on getting a closer team to them.
Gotcha. So you can be active, but that doesn't guarantee for you guys that there's going to be that many teams in the championship. It's kind of, you have to express interest. You have to go through that process that
correct
was laid out. So what does that path look like? Hey, I'm Phoenix, or you ASU. We have a dodgeball team. We can enter the nationals, or is there like a requirement in terms of like we have to have a certain record, or is it open for anybody that's part of the association?
So our nationals is an open tournament. So you only have to meet a couple of qualifications. You have to be in a recognized and official club sport or student organization at your university. You have to have at least 8 players who can meet our requirements for intercollegiate competition. And then you have to play at least 3 regular season games against an opponent. So, for instance, we have DePaul University. They only played 3 games this year. They had a rough year, but they wanted to get the 3 games in order to play at nationals. Same thing with Northwestern State University down in Louisiana. Their closest competition is, I think it's 11 hours away, but they made a trip all the way up to University of Wisconsin-Platteville this year to make sure they got those 3 games in so they could participate at nationals this year.
Okay, so there is a criteria to be able to enter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if is it on the teams to organize, hey, how are we going to travel these 11 hours to go play against Wisconsin? Like they have to kind of figure that on their own. Like how bad do you want it type of setup?
Yeah, it's each team's responsibility to schedule their own games. The NCDA itself doesn't host any tournaments throughout the year except for nationals. All the other teams are hosted by the schools. The NCDA is a support organization,
Gotcha.
and we give people the format and the connections in order to schedule these games so they can play more dodgeball. I don't ever want to move to a model in which we tell people you can only play 12 games a year and they're going to be at these 3 tournaments, show up or don't. I don't want to do that because that limits people. Teams will sign up for tournaments that they can go to and that they want to go to. Not everybody. So for instance, I live in Columbus, Ohio, and Ohio State is right next door. They've missed tournaments that have been at Ohio University, which is just over an hour away. And it's just because they simply just couldn't field a team for that weekend because maybe it's on a Ohio State football weekend, or they didn't want to go against the competition that was going there. And that's fine. That's their prerogative. They can play as much or as little dodgeball as they want.
Gotcha. That's cool. So you're kind of respecting, for lack of better words, like the sovereignty of these organizations. You're letting them kind of do their thing. You're not mandating anything. You're not like a dictating force. Like you have to conform or else you can't play. You're kind of just letting them figure their own organizations out. Yep.
The only requirement is play 3 games if you want to play at nationals.
Nice. Cool. So what's the format of nationals? Is it round robin to determine your seeds and it goes into double, or how's that work?
So we have it split 2 different days, sort of similar to how Elite Nationals does it, where day 1 there's no bracket play, and then day 2 you've got the bracket. So the way we do it now, we used to have it as pools where we would split teams into pools of 4. And they would play their pool play on day 1. We do it a little bit differently now on day 1, where we let teams sort of request different opponents, and they're not guaranteed to get those opponents, but we end up giving each team 3 different matches, just the same as it was when we did pool play. And those matches all count towards their season record and their Gonzalez points, as we call it. Basically their rating that gives them what seed they're going to get for day 2. So we play those 3 games out on day 1, and then from there we use the full season points that they accumulated on top of day 1 of nationals. We use all of that to rank the teams and put them into a bracket for day 2.
Gotcha. I'm glad you brought that up because that was the requesting opponents. So Rebecca had kind of mentioned that, and it sounded really cool. Like you can go there and request to play against, like teams you might not normally get to. At least, I'm speaking from a complete elite perspective where like, man, it'd be really cool to play Gamecocks one time at some point. We just got to hope that the chips will fall where they will for that to happen. But Now I see how that fits in, because when she mentioned that, I thought, okay, so they must have like round robin, and maybe like block off some time to make these matches happen. But that's pretty cool. So obviously you guys do your best to try to honor these requests.
Yeah, so each team, when they register, they'll mark down and say, I want to play one of these two teams. And so the format of nationals, we want to give teams 3 games. So one game should be against an opponent that they've requested. We want to give everybody the opportunity to play against someone that they want to. For whatever reason, whether they think it's going to be a good matchup or they want to slaughter someone, whatever, that's their choice.
Right.
Then we also want to give them an evenly matched game. So we take everyone's Gonzalez rating, which is our ranking algorithm, and we find the standard deviation, the high and the low standard deviation, and we will find opponents for each team that are within 1 standard deviation of their Gonzalez rating, so it's an evenly matched game. And then we also will pair them up against a team that they haven't played this season. That way they get the opportunity to play against someone unique. Because what happened in years past is you show up to nationals, you're in a pool, and it's against teams that you've played all year. And that kind of sucks, because there are teams there from different parts of the country that you'll never get to play against. And so we figured nationals is the best place to do this and to offer this. There are some situations where these requested games, or these evenly matched games, or the games against unique opponents, those 3 will match up into one game. That happens all the time. So we try to give everyone at least one of those games. And so far for the past 3 years, we've done that. Everybody has gotten at least one of those games.
That's pretty cool. And you're bringing back awful memories of going to Vegas, shelling out all kinds of money to play against other Phoenix, Arizona-based teams. It's like, cool. I'm so glad we're here, with Denmark and Germany and, all the guys from the East Coast, and I'm playing against this team that I freaking play against every Sunday. It's like, that's awesome. So, yeah.
We do run into an issue with that, though, because there are 10 schools based in Ohio.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, that's going to happen sometimes, but we do our best to make sure that their other games are unique enough or worth it to them. But sometimes, I think we have 8 schools from Ohio, so 8 of the 22 teams are from the same state. They've all played each other a couple times this year, and that's going to happen. That's just how the schedule falls, because I've made the matchups for nationals over the last, I think, 6 years, and it's a headache trying to fit all these puzzle pieces together.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what kind of lift is that to have this kind of format and, not go crazy and performing calculus to make this happen, but is it obviously, I imagine it's worth it for you guys to offer this platform, but does it put a big strain on you mentally, or is it something that you can just kind of knock out because you got a format and you just got to go through the motions?
So I can definitely say the first couple of years that we did this, where we guaranteed those 3 different types of games, it took me 25 plus hours just to make the matchups.
Jeez.
Trying to get everything to fit perfectly. But luckily I'm pretty handy with Excel and now SQL programming languages. So I've gotten this down to kind of a science. And so this year, when I made the matchups, it only took me about an hour and 45 minutes. So it's getting better year after year. And it's not as much of a headache as it used to be.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm asking for a friend, just on the off chance somebody might want to entertain providing a tournament with this kind of format where you can request who you play against, like a grudge tournament. But yeah, just going back to sharing resources. That's awesome. Just the melding of ideas and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoy doing the scheduling and matchups and things like that. So I'll put this out for anyone. If anybody needs help scheduling a tournament, just let me know. I actually really honestly do enjoy doing it.
Nerd.
Yeah, you're one of those weird people like Brett Baxter who just loves stats. I'm like, okay, nerd. Whatever, man. Whatever floats your boat. Well, cool. So are there, hit the mic. Are there any major rule changes going into this weekend that people might want to be aware of, or any, because Elite obviously has had some changes being, an established organization. So do you guys do that too? Do you guys have rule refinements and, hey, this isn't working, so let's try this thing out, or what's that looking like?
Yeah. So we we vote on rules every off season, and we do that as a league. Every team in the league gets a vote when it comes to all of those changes. This year, we actually don't have any major changes as opposed to in years past. But I guess to sort of sum it up, some of the most recent changes that we've made that have sort of helped make our format more exciting, more fun to watch, more fun to play. We've switched to the clean blocking rule, which is the same as in Elite, where if it bounces off your ball and still hits you in the face, you're out, as opposed to when the league first started, if it hit your ball first, you were safe even if it directly hit you in the head right afterwards or hit you right in the foot. So that's one change that has helped speed up the game. And on top of that, we've dropped it down from a roster size of 15 players in the starting lineup to 12. And even that small change has made it more exciting. The games, the points go quicker, and it's a higher scoring game. More exciting to watch. There could be a lot more action that goes on because of that. So, nice. But no new changes this year as opposed to in 2018.
Yeah, I remember the dirty blocking. That was fun to talk about. I think I was talking about that with Paige, and I think I'd seen a couple instances where people are playing Elite and they think they're good because they're used to that. But it's good to kind of phase that out, so it just kind of helps with that continuity of rules.
It needed to happen.
Was that like a pain point for you guys, Jacob? Like just something you guys knew at some point it's just got to go? Like it's been long enough?
Yeah, I mean, it was just so much of a headache because half the time people would be like, I hit the ball first. Like, dude, that hit your shoulder. Dude, that hit your foot. And be like, nope, hit the ball. Then refs would have to talk. It just took up too much time. So it was an easy fix.
Yep. Yeah, it probably just eliminates all kinds of gray area and interpretation. Like, no, that hit you, you're out. See ya.
We do have one difference, though, in that it's only one kill per throw. So there's no ricochet kills. And also, if you block a ball into your teammate, so if I block it into Kevin's back, Kevin's still safe. The only person that can get out on a throw is the original target. So if it hits my ball first, I'm the only one liable for an out. Huh. So that was kind of our compromise for the people who still like the dirty blocking that we had in the NCDA. And I'm sure at some point in the future we'll explore the options of doing ricochet kills, but with so much stacking that the NCDA teams do, it could potentially cause a lot of reffing issues as well, because if a team is stacking 3 or 4 deep in the corners, it's kind of tough to tell if it hit one player or 2 or all 4.
Gotcha. That's fair. Kevin, I think, were you going to chime in or say something?
No, he basically summed it up there.
Gotcha. Yeah. I want to add, do you have flight kills, suicides? Just out of curiosity.
It's the same as what Elite has now, where if you step over the line, once you step out of bounds, you're out, basically. So it happens from time to time. At the very end of a point, someone might jump over the line to try and get an out, but it's not very frequent.
Yeah, with a 30-foot throw line, it's really tough.
Yeah,
so,
I was going to ask about that. Like, I mean, what are you really gaining with that massive neutral zone and all that space? So I'm just curious if you guys had that. So let's go ahead and go in and get into the actual event itself, the nationals. And one of the things I want to ask, and we can start with you, Jacob, is just what are the teams or colleges that we should be looking at going into this weekend? Like, who do you want to look out for?
I mean, obviously the host, Grand Valley. They haven't lost yet this year. I mean, they've had some close matches with Michigan State, Central, and Towson. But I mean, they have great leadership. They have great organization. It really is. It's fun to watch. They're very talented. I would say the other team to watch out is Towson. It's the first real contender outside of the state of Michigan in quite some time. And the others will elaborate on that, but it really is. It's exciting to see. I mean, it could be our first real champion outside the state of Michigan in almost 10. It's been a while. I'd say almost 10 years, I believe. It's Ohio State. So back in 2006. So it's way over 10 years. So that, and then also there's CMU. JMU is not making the trip. There's a lot of reasons for that. but also Central Michigan could make it to the national championship for a 5th year in a row. So I'll end on that note. Fire up Chips.
They're the Buffalo Bills of the NCDA.
God, please don't say it. Ever say that again. That hurt.
So Grand Valley, just because we talked about the potential for a 7-peat, obviously that's huge. And then Towson, just from what we talked about, might be the team that might have the best shot at giving Grand Valley a hard time if they match up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, how about you, Felix? Who's on your watch list?
Grand Valley and Towson are up there, but I'm really excited to see what Miami brings. Miami University, they made a lot of strides in the last few years. They were by far and away the worst team in the NCDA from like 2009 to 2011. Wow. And then they actually went defunct for, I think, 3 years. And then they started back up in 2016, I think. And now they're number 4 in the country. And they really have made a lot of strides. They work well as a team. Their top 4 players have really honed their skills, and they do a great job of communicating. And that's a huge part of the game, is calling out plays, making sure you know who's making that next throw. And not only that, but they're incredibly accurate. So I'm excited to see how they do. I don't know if they'll make it to the championship game, but I'm expecting them to make Final Four.
Gotcha. And this is Miami, an Ohio-based
of
team?
Ohio. Okay. Yeah, out of Oxford, Ohio.
Dang, I got excited for a second. I was like, nice, you got Florida coming all the way out, but one day.
No.
Someday.
Alrighty. How about you, Kevin? What are your teams to look out for?
Yeah, I kind of echo same thing that they said. Grand Valley's the obvious favorite. 22-0 on the season so far, and they're actually on a 30-game win streak dating back to last February, I think. So, yeah, they're on a roll, and that's only 11 wins shy of the college dodgeball record for wins, consecutive wins, which is 41. So they can get up to 7 over the course of nationals, so they'll get up to 37 and be just 4 shy of that if they do end up winning nationals, going undefeated the whole weekend. But besides Grand Valley, Towson, as they mentioned, they've been a really impressive team all year. And I think that's something we should mention, is just how impressive of leadership they have over the last few years. This is a program that when they joined the NCDA, they were one of 3 teams on the East Coast to join, and they were arguably the worst one. And over the first few years as a program, they were the worst team in the East. They were getting beat up by everyone, James Madison, Maryland. And they've really turned their program around, where the way that they run their program from a social media standpoint, promoting their team, both at their school and then on social media and on the, all the different ways that they go about it. They're a really popular team at their school with their club sports program, and they just do a really good job of running that club. So I'll be happy to see them have some success at nationals. They've never made it further than the quarterfinals ever. They've choked a few times, once in overtime, another time they blew a bit of a lead late in the game against Michigan State. I think that was in 2017. But yeah, they've never made it to a Final Four, and this year they're projected to make it all the way to the title game. So
nice. Excited
to see that. Yeah, and then besides those teams, all the other Michigan teams, you have Central Michigan, Michigan State, Saginaw Valley, and then Miami, like Felix mentioned. Those are the main contenders, if you will.
Awesome. That sounds exciting. Man, no offense to you guys, but the 7-peat, I can't get past that. But also, how cool would it be if Towson beat Grand Valley, and then you have like a repeat of people cheering when Grand Valley takes a dive. So that's awesome. At least I know like who to kind of watch now, and I hope people tuning in will be able to do so. And actually, so how do we watch this? I don't know who wants to take that one, but will this be streamed, or are we going to hope somebody hops on their cell phone and films it for us, or how's that gonna play out?
Good question, and great timing for that. If this comes out on Thursday, then we'll be a couple days late, but on Tuesday here, we just had an announcement where the NCDA is partnering with Mad City and Mainstream Media, two video production companies based out of Chicago, and we'll be partnering with them for Championship Sunday. So we'll be live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch those days, or on Sunday, and that'll be from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 p.m. Eastern time. We're gonna have live stream with multiple camera angles, full commentary,
nice.
Everything that you want to see out of a sports broadcast. We're gonna have that for bracket play at nationals on the main court. So it'll be exciting. I know that our teams and our players are really excited for that after finding out about it earlier today. But yeah, I think that it's going to be a great thing for the sport of dodgeball as a whole, just being able to get that full-on production and really show what college dodgeball is all about to its fullest potential.
Heck yeah, it would. So again, diving into my past, I think it was 2007 or 8, I saw Fox Sports Network. I think it was like the local sports, like not Fox Sports, the main channel, but getting backtracked. But anyway, I saw like a commentated like full production of a match, and I don't know if it was the Nationals, but I just remember seeing, holy crap, this is a professionally done event that's got commentators, and this is like back in 2007 before we were treated to Dave Benedetto and Brittany Massaro doing the UDC, and just to see that kind of attention being given to a dodgeball event was super exciting. And another reason why I wanted to try to bring NCDA to the Southwest was just like, look at this, like people take this crap seriously, like look how well done this is. So to kind of see that develop into what we have now with streaming and give it the treatment that I feel like dodgeball really deserves, that's really exciting. And I'll be tuning in when I can to see how this plays out. That's awesome. Are the commentators, are they going to be players from NCDA, or are you guys going to be any part of that, or how's that determined?
We'll be part of it. It's going to be just various NCDA staff, whether it's people on the executive board right now, like the three of us, or other alumni. So we're going to work through that. And I should mention as well that we will have streaming on Saturday as well, even though it won't be the well-done product that Mad City and Mainstream Media are going to give us. We're going to do a little bit of Facebook Live on Saturday for all those not bracket play, but the pool play type games as well.
Okay, cool. So you could still tune in and catch everything. You just won't get the extremely polished version on Sunday.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It'll just be from someone's cell phone, like it typically is.
For sure.
I'll probably put an iPad up and just leave it there for 4 hours until Facebook kicks me off, and then we'll restart it again.
Awesome.
But yeah, so Saturday will be covered. It's just we're really looking forward to Sunday. We're really happy that we're able to work with Mad City and Mainstream. They've both been extremely helpful in making this happen on our budget. They've been. I'm just really excited to work with these guys. And they told me yesterday, actually, they're bringing in a professional commentator that's going to sit with the NCDA staff and any other NCDA players that we have doing commentary. That way they kind of act as a person that doesn't know the sport as well as we do. So they're going to ask questions that maybe the audience would like to know. And so I think it's going to be really great having that person there as well.
That's awesome.
I didn't know that until just now, and that's exciting.
Oh yeah, I guess I forgot to mention that to you guys.
Small detail, but that's awesome. That's cool. That's the old man in me is really happy right now. I've got a cheesy smile on my face.
We are so fired up about it because it's just going to be a great opportunity for us to show off what our league is all about.
Definitely.
And the sport of dodgeball itself. just all of these different kids and their friend groups, when they share this on their social media, they get to see what dodgeball is all about. And then also within the dodgeball community itself, I know that a lot of people might not be as knowledgeable as even you are when it comes to the NCDA. This will be a cool way for them to really see what we have going on with our format. So we are really excited for it.
Yeah, definitely. That and like what could be. You can bring that here being wherever you're watching on the west coast and
exactly.
Southwest.
Yeah, so Mad City is bringing 3 technical directors with them. So we're going to have someone watching the court, switching between cameras, following the action of the play, and then the other 2 are going to be working on replays. So this will be the first time that the NCDA will have replays available in stoppages of play. So I'm really looking forward to that. It brings a whole new production level to dodgeball, and I told Eric from Mad City, it's like, I really feel like this event is going to open up a lot of doors, not only for us, but for you guys too. So they're excited too.
I sure hope so. And I'm confident it will. There's a lot to be said about a professional production and capturing dodgeball the right way versus, implanting, subject matter experts such as you guys to just cue the audience in on what they're watching. And even me, 10 minutes ago, I didn't know anything about, Grand Valley and Townsend, and now I'm bought in. I really hope I get to see that matchup, and I'll be rooting for somebody, probably both, until I see a clear winner. But yeah, there's a lot of awesome potential I think that's about to come out of this. So it'll be really cool to see what plays out after the weekend takes place. But let's kind of get into the crowdsource questions. I'm sure it was kind of bounce back and forth between the actual event, and we'll start with Sergio Leone. He asks, what is your favorite NCDA final that each of you have witnessed? And for that, I mean, it could be any of the previous finals that took place, or do you guys have a favorite? And we'll start with you, Jacob.
I think my favorite's still this from a personal perspective was my last game, which was the 2015 National Championship. It was Kevin's as well. It went 1-0, almost went into overtime. Went down. I think Grand Valley had maybe 1 or 2 players left, and the time ran out. That was for me. Other than that, the year after that, 2016 was pretty exciting as well. Or am I getting the years mixed up, Kevin?
Yeah, 2016 was our last year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Was that what you were alluding to earlier, Jacob, when you're like, hey, please don't rub his ego? I lost to him, and I don't want to relive that?
2 years in a row, man. Don't keep bringing it up.
Yeah, sorry. There's more salt and lime in the wound, but context, man, it's important. We have to know. We have to know the stories behind
I
this.
get it.
You're a good sport.
I think Felix was the ref for that game, the head ref.
Yeah, I've been the head ref for the finals game since 2013, I think.
Nice.
And that's why we lost. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's why.
Will we be seeing you as a final ref this year, Felix?
I assume so. It really just depends on how the day's going.
Right.
If there are any referees that are standing out, then I may give it up. But it's not anything that I want. It's more just I'm the loudest voice and the meanest person on the court, so people don't try as much with me, which is good. You got to keep the games under control, because obviously with playing as many games as they do in a weekend, everyone's tired. They're running on little sleep. Tempers can flare, so you just got to make sure you have strong referees in there to keep everybody under control.
For sure. Yeah, I was gonna make some kind of sideways weird rooster pun, but I'll just leave it at that. Try to keep it clean. Well, how about your favorite Nationals event or final matchup that you witnessed, Felix? I mean, I'm sure you've got a lot to draw from. So what stands out the most to you?
Honestly, I think it was, and this isn't just rubbing Kevin's face, he wasn't even on the team yet, but 2011 when Central Michigan beat Grand Valley in the finals.
Fire up, baby.
It was really an incredible game. Central's team at that time, they had so many natural athletes on the team. They had they're, I would say 10 of their 15 on the starting lineup, they look like they could be D1 athletes. These names won't mean anything to anybody listening unless you're an old NCDA person, but like you had Eric Fisher, you had Sweet, you had Patrick Fisher, Eric Sweet, got those mixed up, and then Brett Hadwin, Bryce Corian. These guys were legends in the NCDA. They were awesome athletes. All of them knew how to play the game, and they really they took that away from Grand Valley. And that was after, I think, Grand Valley, they were on a three-peat at the time, going for their fourth win. And it was cool because at the time there was Grand Valley's captain, Jimmy Stokes. Jimmy Stokes. So that was his senior year, and he had won an NCAA title every year except for this last year. And he was the one I was the tournament director at the time, so I was going to give the trophy to Central. He goes, "Do you mind if I do it?" And just that level of sportsmanship. He said, "Guys, you took it from us. You deserve this.
That's awesome.
You showed us." Yeah, it was a really good moment because he could have been nasty about it. He could have been, tempers could have flared. He could have been emotional, but no, it just shows that the level of maturity that he had and that the entire Grand Valley team had. They all stuck around. They all clapped for the winners. It was just a really good moment.
What class. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Need more of that kind of camaraderie and respect for each other despite your win or loss, because man, meltdowns can be pretty bad on the elite side. That's awesome. What was his name again?
Jimmy Stokes.
Jimmy Stokes.
He's been around in elite. He pops in every now and then.
Gotcha.
I think he lives in South Carolina now.
Yep.
That's cool. And that answered one of the questions I wrote down earlier that I kind of forgot, and that was what do you get nationals? Is it like a traveling trophy? Everybody get medals? Obviously, you want pride and place in history, but what are you guys playing for? Were the teams like? Is it just a big trophy?
There's a big trophy.
Gotcha.
It's got a dent in it now, and
of course,
Grand Valley will blame Central Michigan for it, that it happened during the year that they got to keep it. But yeah, it's just a giant trophy that has resided at someone's house at Grand Valley's campus for the last so many years.
Yeah, it has. It's got a lot of plaques at the bottom where you just put in Grand Valley.
Yeah, like the Stanley Cup, pretty much.
Yeah,
that's what I was picturing. That's too cool.
I think the trophy goes back to the first nationals, I believe. So the trophy is 15 years old. It has the 8 founding members or founding teams of the NCDA. It's got the captains and the teams etched into the trophy itself, just to kind of pay tribute.
We're only a couple years away from the trophy itself being older than some of the people that are going to be receiving it.
Oh boy, there we
Pretty
go.
crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
It was funny because when we talked last year, me and Felix were like having a contest of who is older, and then you just out of nowhere, Kevin, you're like, "Wow, you guys are old." I was like, "Oh man, why am I fighting this battle? Nobody wins." But I mean, that's awesome, and then that's kind of why. Quick segue, like why I even want a podcast to begin with is just to cement some of this history and give people a chance to hear those names that, yeah, they may not be playing anymore, they may not be accurate or active, but in a small, weird kind of way, they still live on. And just kind of talking to you guys and understand the whole what's centered around nationals is really getting me kind of amped up for it. Even though I will never play NCDA myself and have been an outsider, this is awesome. Before we go into some of the more questions, because there are definitely more questions about rivalries and whatnot, but Kevin, what was your favorite NCDA final that you've witnessed or participated in?
I was actually going to say what Felix said, that 2011 one, I wasn't part of the league yet. It was actually one of those YouTube videos that when I was in high school, I saw it, and it made me kind of want to join the team when I went to school at Grand Valley. So, but yeah, I think that one was the most iconic, I guess, because Central Michigan was able to break Grand Valley's 4-year streak of winning the title. and they did it in such exciting fashion, where I think that that's the type of potential that we have this year with Towson coming in with a chance to maybe break Grand Valley's 6-year streak. And, I mean, that type of legend lives on when you're able to do something like that. Central Michigan, that one is probably the most exciting national championship game ever because of what was on the line there with Grand Valley's streak. So,
and it was amazing, the catches that Central was making. At that time, their team was very split. You were either an amazing catcher or an amazing thrower, but the amazing throwers didn't catch and the catchers didn't throw. And so the catchers that they were making were ridiculous. I was a shot clock referee for that game, and I just remember, I think his name was Pat. He was a redheaded guy, and he sprinted across the court, reached out like a wide receiver, and just drug his toes as he slid out of bounds. And so he makes the catch, but he's out. We don't have momentum rules in the NCDA, but it was just the level of athleticism it'll never leave my memory.
That's awesome. You gotta love those plays and those exchanges of I don't want to say bouts, but you gotta love when that certain things just stick in your mind forever, whether you're a part of it or not. You're there to witness it. So Towson, I mean, hopefully we're not painting a huge target on them, but definitely setting the expectation there. Bill Fisher asked, what are the main rivalries we should be aware of going into this weekend? Who are the capable underdogs and who are the favorites? I don't want to speak for you guys, but it sounds like we covered some of them, but were there any other teams that we should look out for, especially with like the capable underdogs? Like you mentioned Miami. Are there any favorites or any other teams that we want to elaborate on?
Sure. So we've mentioned each of the teams ranked in the top 7 or 8, I think. But yeah, I think that some of the other teams to look out for, especially when they're able to watch this on the Mad City live stream that we're going to have, there's a handful of teams from Ohio that their programs have really just stepped up so much over the last few years, and they're far more competitive teams now than they were in the past. So I'd say keep an eye on Ohio University, Akron University as well, and then even Bowling Green State. Bowling Green made it to the Final Four last year. They graduated so many people, so they took a step back this year. But those 3 teams from Ohio and then Kent State as well, those will all be interesting teams to watch. Also, I guess worth mentioning is Penn State and Virginia Commonwealth as well. Penn State is one of the most athletic teams in the league, and they don't have the most experience. They're a really young team right now, but I have a feeling that we're going to get them on the live stream court at least once because they are a fun team to watch.
Every year.
So much athleticism. And yeah, every year it seems like they're on the verge of pulling an upset. They almost upset the number 1 seed last year when they were the 16th seed. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, they're a fun team to watch. And then VCU last year was like the main story of nationals. They were able to upset Saginaw Valley when Saginaw was number 3 at the time. And then they almost upset Michigan State as well to get into the quarterfinals, which would have been the furthest that they've ever gone as a team too. So, yeah, there's a handful of teams there. The middle of the pack of the NCDA is really, really exciting to watch because they're all teams that are sort of improving day by day and becoming more and more competitive. And yeah, even like Akron, as I mentioned earlier, they were a literal second away from upsetting Saginaw Valley State earlier this year. Saginaw scored a point with a second to go to force overtime. So nice. It's things like that where there are so many teams that have what they're capable of beating top level teams. So it'll be really fun to watch. There's going to be upsets. I guarantee that.
That's awesome.
Like March Madness round 2.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny you mentioned that because Mark Hale asked me about March Madness, which we'll get into. But Jacob, I think you were kind of trying to chime in about Penn State being athletic and just a potential team to look out for. But were there any other teams on your docket that you're looking at, or?
I mean, Kevin nailed them all. I mean, the big thing especially with the college dodgeball level, I mean, especially with the younger teams, it takes time, years to become a really competitive team usually. So, I mean, there's only so many that have a realistic shot, in my opinion, to really go far.
Yeah.
I like the middle of the pack statement of it's going to be a battle. That's always, you don't want to necessarily just watch one team steamroll everybody. You want to see
Exactly.
that the competition and just the battles. So it sounds like there's going to be a lot of them come Sunday.
Yeah. Well, and
The
then
way
even,
sorry, go
sorry,
ahead, Felix.
I was gonna say, well, and then even like since we do the matchups where you get an evenly matched teams, even the teams that are in the bottom of our skills levels, they're going to be playing other teams that are just as skilled as they are, and so those are going to be close matches. They may not be the most exciting. They're not going to be the like it's not going to be like Towson versus Grand Valley, but they're going to be exciting for their own right, and so all day Saturday there's going to be great matchups. I'm really confident of that. There's only going to be a few games that are going to be blowouts.
Right. Just plenty of even match drama to go around. Let's
Yeah, and the way we kind of have talked about it as like a NCDA staff in the past is just the middle of the pack, and the NCDA continues to rise is basically how we say it, where those teams that used to be easy wins for a number 3 team in the country, they continue to rise up where it's no guarantee anymore. There's going to be so many exciting games because of that. So
nice. Let's kind of go back to that March Madness comment. I don't want to necessarily keep this rapid fire, but I just want to see what your guys' overall 4 picks are. And that was asked by Sergio. Just who would your final 4 be? And we'll start with you, Jacob.
I mean, I'll have to say that, it's always tough, especially with how Saturday ends up. I mean, like last year, VCU upset SVSU and changed the entire rankings in the bracket. But if I had to go with anything, I'd go with Grand Valley, Towson, CMU, and MSU.
Nice. How about you, Felix?
I'd say Grand Valley, Towson, Miami, and I don't know. That last one, it's a toss-up. I'll go with Michigan State.
And Kevin?
I'm going to go the same thing as Leski. I'll go Grand Valley, Towson, Central Michigan, and Michigan State. I don't think we've talked enough about Michigan State or Central even on this podcast, but MSU is a team that is loaded with rookies where people aren't going to be expecting them to be as good as they're going to be at nationals. They've had time to develop and learn the game, learn how to get that pinch throw down. They're one of the most talented teams overall in the league, and I think that they're going to have like a breakout type of performance at nationals. I would argue that outside of Towson, they have the most ceiling in terms of being able to compete with Grand Valley. So
nice.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know that there's some other people that feel the same as me that I've talked to about that recently, and I know MSU has some rookies that I haven't seen play in an NCDA game, but they went to Elite in Minneapolis and played there. So they have some talent, and they have some players that now have some real experience against good players. I think that they, other than Towson, have the best shot at beating Grand Valley.
Interesting. Yeah, so many teams to look out for now. Let's see. There's a couple of questions I'm going to gloss over just for the sake of time, because there was Tyler wrote us a novel with some of his questions. So I definitely want to get into that, but I'll kind of...
You can rapid fire these other ones.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and do that.
Make them quick.
Bill Fisher, let's say I'm trying to find a team to cheer for based on their approach to the game. What teams would I follow for high-level strategy? And a physically dominant team and a team that catches like no other. So I guess if you want to take that one, Kevin.
Yeah, I go physically dominant team would be Towson. They have so many arms up and down their roster. Strategy-wise, I would say any of those Michigan teams. Michigan teams are known for having the most strategy. And then what was the other one? Catching, I'd say Saginaw Valley State. They're the best catching team in the country. They have some insane catchers on their team. So keep an eye out for them when it comes to catching.
Nice. And then Felix, Jacob, do you have any weigh in on that, or do you want to let Kevin kind of speak for you guys?
I think Kevin's answers are good.
Yeah, same. Kevin nailed it all.
Well, thanks.
All right, that's the last compliment you get.
How many more can you rake in before you
Settle down there?
Done. We're done. That's never happening again.
Push my limit.
Let's see. Sergio asked, any chances of catching a highlight reel? I'm going to assume yes, but that really depends on, like, you guys will get the footage from Ad City, right? It's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll own the footage at the end. So we're definitely going to make a highlight reel. We want something to be able to blast out on social media and get new teams into the NCDA. So we'll have a 5-second clip to catch people's initial interest, a 15-second clip, 30-second, and then hopefully we get like a 5-minute long like highlight reel.
Gotcha.
And to add on top of that real quick, we also invited Dominic Borgia. Unfortunately, he's unable to make it, but
Bummer.
he was planning on coming and doing some putting together a little highlight tape for us too.
Doesn't he have a funeral or something like that?
Yeah, unfortunately, he had a funeral for a friend, I believe. So our thoughts are with him. Unfortunately, he's not able to make it, but he seemed really excited about filming us for the whole documentary and then also getting to put together a little highlight tape for us. So
Yeah, poor guy. I caught wind of something like that happening to him, and yeah, if you're listening, Dominic, thoughts are with you, man. Hope you are able to recover. And I was going to ask if he was going to be a part of this too, because I mean that guy has covered every single major dodgeball event, and I was curious to see like what his take would have been for the NCDA championships, but it's always next year. So
Yep, definitely.
Sergio asked, and we're going to kind of pair this with Frankie. So he asked, what does the NCAA tournament calendar look like per year? We did kind of cover that last year, and that's one of the things where like I don't want to necessarily plug last year too much, but if you're listening and you kind of want a little bit more of the NCAA background, we did cover it briefly in the opening to this particular episode, but I do want to kind of point you into last year's, again, just for the sake of time, and I do want to spend more time on the actual event itself. So all right, so I did want to ask, though, some of these questions that came up. I just feel like they're going to cause a lot of discussion, which is great. But we'll start with Frankie Giannetto's question, and that is, can you explain the burden rules and why they're set up that way? And Felix, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so the NCDA is unique in that we have a shot clock. So each team must make a throw within 15 seconds. This just helps keep the game from getting stale. But it can't just be like a throw, or you can't roll the ball to the other team. The ball has to go into what we call the legitimate attempt zone. So you have to be able to make a play on the ball. So we say that's within a step and a lunge of a stationary player. So a player has to be able to make a play on the ball in order for it to reset the shot clock. This is important because we don't want people just stalling out. We want the game to continue. Ideally, it should be a play every 15 seconds at the very least, but we understand that people are going to miss their shots sometimes. We've made some updates to this rule over the last several years. So we have a 10-second shot clock if the team has 5 or less players on the court. Then they have 10 seconds to throw the ball. And that just kind of helps speed up the game, because with throwing a ball every 10 seconds, when you're down to 5 or less people, you're going to start making mistakes, or the other team is also going to start firing fast at you because just the game is naturally going to pick up. We really like this style of play for the NCDA, and it's important because we have 10 balls on the court. So it's really tough to do like a Burden style shot clock.
Right. Just
because with 10 balls, even if we were to do an off-color ball like Elite, or take out one of the balls or add a ball to make it an odd number, once you get down to like 2 players, then you're going to get in just a rolling match where it's going to be unrealistic to be able to throw 7, 8 balls. I guess the most you would have to throw would be 6, but 6 balls in order to alleviate the burden from your team. So we really like our shot clock. There are definitely some improvements that we can make, but we're happy with where we are right now.
And that kind of addresses kind of what Frankie's follow-up statement, which is, for me, FYI, to me, it seems slow, predictable with take turns throwing and rules. So the shot clock and just kind of altering the time depending on how many players are left on a particular team, and just making sure that you have to make legitimate throws and not rolling balls kind of helps mitigate
Right, and
the stagnation.
I think it's less of a back and forth than Elite, because Elite truly is just one shot clock for the entire game. With the NCDA, you have two shot clocks running simultaneously. So if a team decides to throw at 4 seconds, then again at 7 seconds, that's quick enough where one team could throw twice between before the other team even gets to make one throw. So, and especially if a team is good enough to be able to read their opponent and make strategic throws that could help force a shot clock violation on the other team. So if you keep pump faking or throwing at the person that's about to throw to the point where they won't make their throw, then you can get into a whole new range of strategy there and trying to force ball violations so that way you get all of the balls.
So it's definitely like Elite. So you'll have your people trying to pump fake and trying to stall and psych out the other team to cause a turnover. Like, what would you call that when you have to?
It's a shot clock violation.
Shot clock violation. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. Yeah. Again, it's from the outside looking in, those massive court spaces. It may look like things may be slow and predictable, but I mean, I've seen some Elite games just go by so painstakingly slow as well. So I think it's just. I think when you have two teams that know each other really well and they're both really strategic and keep their communication on point, it's just bound to happen. So curious to see how that's going to play out, because I don't think, and Serge Ferrari may correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if there's like a certain window that Elite has to follow to make a legitimate throw. I don't know if we've gotten there yet.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No. It's because you could roll the balls back and
I think there's
you
a
could
limitation
roll the ball
to that.
once. Yeah. You can't roll the ball after you've received a roll or something like that.
That's lame. Such a
Yeah.
it's like, throw the ball at me, come on, just end it, or just play dodgeball.
Well, when we had talked about that in the past in the NCDA, we talked about going to a burn style. Someone's like, "Well, what happens if we just roll the balls to the other team?" It's like, why would you do that? Then you're just giving the enemy ammunition.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. Just make your throws.
Just take a shot, play some dodgeball. So before we move on to or move past Frankie, he did ask one more question, and I think this might be best for you, Jacob, just based on your recruiting efforts. But he goes on to ask, what's the audience attendance at big events, and are there any schools that do a really good job of community outreach? And if so, what do they do? So what's your take on that one?
I think it's a great question. I mean, that's one of the few things that we pride ourselves on. So our schools like JMU and Towson on the East Coast do a really great job with that. I mean, they travel well. I mean, even in away tournaments, they really have they make a difference. I mean, I've played against JMU, and there's times where their fans really know how to get loud and also make a difference. But the biggest one though that I can think of was Grand Valley back in the day. I think 2009. But they were the national championship or whatever the tournament itself, is the third most attended event at the university, which has 25,000 plus. Third most attended that year, and the only ones that beat it was a football game and a basketball game. So that in itself is still pretty impressive.
Score one for us. You know, us always taking a backseat to conventional sports, like coming in third. That's pretty solid.
I'm sure if you look it up too, I mean, just type it into Google, you're gonna find it. There's a pretty famous picture of it. I mean, the entire standings are full.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
We used to have events at Western Kentucky University. We would play University of Kentucky every year in the Battle of the Bluegrass, and it was a fundraiser event for a high school. And so the high school would charge admission and raise money for their like after prom party thing that they do. And the stands would be packed. The first year that I played in it, it was a sold out crowd. They had 400 plus people there. And these were all just people from a small farming community in Butler County, Kentucky, who were just out to like support their school. But then they found college dodgeball to be a pretty exciting event. And it was pretty crazy.
Yeah. That'll be the day when there's just a stadium packed full of people watching dodgeball of all things, and not just not just your girlfriend, boyfriend, or brother, sister, mom, dad, whoever you can drag out to watch you. That's that day's getting closer. I can feel it. I think people need to look to the NCDA for that and figure out what what they do to make that happen. I think earlier, Kevin, you were saying something about how I think Towson just has a really solid like social media following, perhaps, and maybe that's what attributes to it. Like you just give people a reason to care about you. But yeah, I'm just curious. Are you guys expecting a pretty big turnout for nationals? Like, is that a heavily spectated event as well, or is it kind of like elite, where it's like the teams and like the close relatives, if that?
I think that the fact that we're having it at Grand Valley this year is going to help with such a storied program. They're able to usually get a good fan base out, so I think it'll be a good location for it. They'll get some students out there, and then obviously all of their friends and family. But I think the main thing is that with it being nationals, you're going to get families and friends from all these different schools, and it's not just going to be, a duel between two different teams where you might get a handful of fans, but not that much. So,
Gotcha.
Nationals is our biggest shot to get a huge fan base there.
I mean, again, with Mad City coming in with the streaming, I mean, you can couple that with the live views that we're getting, or you guys are getting, so that might impact that too, and just breed more awareness for next year, and maybe get more people wanting to check out a game where and when they can. So Dominic Borgi, he has two questions. I'm just going to breeze through his first one. How does the NCDA plan to go further? Jacob, we'll kind of cover that a little bit more towards the end. And I do want to point to the previous episode that we did last year with Felix and you, Kevin, to kind of just give more of a broad overview of what the NCDA is and what they do. But I want to dive into this one that Tyler asked. And before I do that again, Dominic asked another question. Why is the pinch style allowed? Why are the courts so big? And how do former members stay active after their 4 years is up? So I think when we were kind of reviewing this, Felix, you said you might be able to answer both questions. So
yeah,
let me look at Tyler's question real quick, and just for the sake of those that may not have seen the thread on the Facebook page. Okay, so he starts off, he says, okay, controversial, but there are a few questions in here. Are there plans to, at the end of the season, to at a minimum discuss making drastic changes to the NCDA in regards to format of play style that would make the NCDA much more similar to Elite in regards to court size, number of players on the team, and not taking away pinch, but adding more ball styles like no sting that would most likely bring more women into the NCDA? So, tough one, Felix. You're on the spot, though.
Yeah, that's no problem. So we've talked about this in the past, adding more divisions and ball types and things like that. But honestly, it just comes down to having the capacity to do so. We did a short series last year where we did 6v6 tournaments. We only ended up hosting one. We had another one scheduled, but it, for some reason, just fell through. And we got a new school into the NCDA, or two new schools into the NCDA because of that. University of Wisconsin Eau Claire, and then University of Wisconsin Whitewater. They played in their first NCDA game at those events. And those are just kind of recruiting events where we played 6v6, similar to Elite, but a little bit different. We still had soft boundaries. It was pinch. The no ricochet kills, one kill per throw, that type of thing.
Right.
And the event was good, but we didn't really see the results that we wanted from it. We've talked about in the past, possibly doing a foam or no sting division, or even just like a single tournament, featuring those two ball types. And there just really isn't a lot of interest, for the current NCDA players. Current NCDA players love pinch. I know it is difficult for other people to understand, the same way that a lot of NCDA players feel about no sting and foam. It's not anything that they've had enough exposure to. It's not anything that they particularly enjoy. And we truly believe that pinch is the best form of dodgeball. And everyone's entitled to their opinion. You guys can, anybody who's listening, you can disagree with us, but the NCDA and our players truly believe that. And so we don't have any plans to make adjustments to our format to adhere to Elite style, because we're not Elite. We're a separate organization that's been around for a much longer period of time than Elite. And we like what Elite does. I love playing in it. I love that the fact that it has their on season is the NCDA's off season, allowing NCDA players to stay active all year round. I love that. I have no bad words to say about Elite. It's just not our game.
Right.
And being forced into something like this, or being expected to change our format because of another organization, that's not anything that we're interested in. That's one thing that as one of the founding board members of USA Dodgeball, I made very clear that I don't want USA Dodgeball to force other organizations to run a certain way. We want all the organizations to keep their autonomy, keep their ball type, keep their play style, because that's what's important to them. They know their audience. They know how to grow their community. So let's just be the support for them. And so that's what we hope, and that's what we're asking for the rest of the dodgeball community. Allow us to continue and develop these monsters who like pinch and can throw a pinch 8.5-inch rubber ball 75 miles an hour from 30 feet away. That way, when we play you in Elite, we can show you what a fastball looks like. And another thing with dropping the roster size down to 6, we lose a lot, because right now we allow teams to bring up to 18 players per tournament. Those bottom 6 players who are not in the starting 12, they're going to sit a lot. And that's okay, because they are still going to get to play games. But those bottom 6, if we were to move to a 6v6, they will never see playing time. And with universities having so many different opportunities for clubs, Greek organizations, other club sports, internships, job opportunities, just studying what you go to college for, there's a lot of potential to lose interest that way. So by keeping our roster sizes larger, we have the opportunity for retention. And that's really what we're after, because if we were to drop down to 6v6, the 2014 Grand Valley team would have comprised of Dylan Fettig, Kevin Bailey, Mark Trapetti, Jalen Gardner, Trevor Norberg, and maybe Austin. I don't know if he can count to 10, but it would have been those 6. And then the other guys who you may not know of, they would have never had playing time. And they would have said, well, I'm not going to put in all this time, this effort, this money into this sport if I'm not even going to get the opportunity to play against another team. So then they move on to something else. Then when Dylan, Kevin, and Trevor all graduate, that team's left with bare bones, and then they have to rebuild year after year. One good thing about Elite is there is no expiration date. You can play as long as you want. But with the NCDA, most of the time we're looking at 4.5 years. And so we have a lot of turnover. Every year we lose 25% of our membership. And with teams losing 25% of their own teams, you have to make sure you have a good foundation in place so that way you'll be strong for the next year. We've seen programs fall apart because of big graduating classes. My alma mater is one of them. WKU is not an active team anymore because in 2016, they graduated, I think it was like 60% of their starting roster, and they didn't have anybody that was able to step up and lead the team through a rebuilding year, because a rebuilding year is really tough. It'll kill a lot of good programs, and I'm sad to say that my alma mater is not in the NCDA anymore, and that kills me. But so that's kind of why the NCDA is structured the way it is. We were looking for retention, we're looking for longevity, and we truly 100% believe that pinch is the best form of dodgeball. And again, I don't care if anybody disagrees with me. I don't like no-sting, and I'll say that to anyone. I don't see the value in it, but it's because I don't have exposure to it. There's no no-sting leagues around me. I've played it 3 times at UDC. That's it. I'm sure that if it were around me, I would grow to love it more, but I can't say I've had those opportunities.
Yes, I'm glad you brought it back to like your belief that pinch is the best. I will say no, like Red Point 8.5 rubber is the best, and there are people that will say foam is the best, not no sting, et cetera, et cetera. There are some crazies out there that'll say cloth is the best. It's just what you are used to, what you've been exposed to, and you made that comment that the NCDA has been around a lot longer than Elite. And, you know, at first, like, oh, some shade there, but not really. I mean, you make a really valid point that I'm going to pick on you, Kevin, because you're new. If you come into something that's been established for years, almost like half your age probably, and this format is set, it's been proven, and it's drawn over 800 players at a time, why would you fix it to cater to something else that's still I want to say elite's in its infancy. It's going on like year 6 now, but something that's still kind of a new player into the sport. You look at NDL, and one of their biggest failures was this totalitarian belief that you are going to fall in line and you're going to be our feeder system. You're going to be like this surf type of entity towards us, and that did not go well at all. That stunted growth, that killed motivation, and it drove a lot of people to just branch off and do their own thing. So there's a lot of really good points that in your answer, Felix, that I think you really covered. And I agree with you from an old man standpoint. Like I've seen a lot of this play out, and I know that when you try to establish dominance in your role or your rule set, teams will just say no. I don't want to do this anymore. So I think what we have now with NCDA and elite kind of feed into each other is great, and I think some people might take that a little too literally. Just because NCDA is successful at feeding players into the elite dodgeball system doesn't mean 100% of them have to do it. I highlighted this one statement or comment that Tyler made where he's basically saying with 12 players at a minimum to each team, each program could essentially have 2 elite teams upon graduating. Well, we talked about earlier, not every player that plays in NCDA wants to move on. Like they will do their 4 years and they'll get married, or they'll find something else that suits their needs because they're just in it for recreational aspects. So I hope that really answers a lot of those questions. And Tyler has great points, and I think that actually is a perception of many people. Like I myself kind of had that belief of like, oh, hot dang, 800 NCDA players, that's 800 elite players coming in at some point, and it's just not necessarily the case. So
yeah, I mean, and his comment about bringing in more women, we really have tried. There was a study recently done, and we do a lot of research for like club sports and student organizations in order to reach out to the right students. And there's a lot of studies out there about women joining club sports at universities, and it is really tough. And especially in male dominated sports, 10% of the NCDA is female, but those 10% may not see as much playing time as their male counterparts because of the style of play in the NCDA. Some of them absolutely will. Maddie Talbert from Ohio State, she's been on the starting roster for Ohio State for 4 years because she is an amazing catcher. And you're not going to, the Becca Chappelles and Maddie Talberts of the world, those are a dime a dozen. Yeah, we don't get those every day in the NCDA. And keeping women in the NCDA is really tough. You have to find people like Cassie Weaver, who was the first Kent State player who was a captain. That was a female. She did an amazing job with her team. She led her team to a lot of great victories, but those players unfortunately are a dime a dozen. You have to find people who are crazy enough to want to step on the court, don't mind getting hit in the face, and want to keep coming back time and time again, even though there are a lot of other organizations on campus that would look better on a resume. A lot of Greek organizations, especially sororities, they pull a lot of women away that could be potentially interested in playing dodgeball. And so time commitments, there were some recent studies showing that women on average take advantage of internships at universities like 200 times or 200% more than their male counterparts. And so women are there in college doing what they're supposed to in college, and studying, bettering themselves, and getting prepared for the real world, while there are some guys who are throwing balls at each other, which, I mean, it's not necessarily the worst thing, but it's different. And that's the thing. Getting women to play a sport that they've never played before is tough. Getting men to play a sport that they've never played before is tough as well, because then you run into the issues of if you were a star soccer player in high school and then you come and you try to play dodgeball and you're the worst player on the court, you're not going to stick around. Yep. You're all of a sudden you go to the worst you become the worst athlete on the court or on the field. A lot of players don't like that, and it's true across the board. So it's unfortunately, those are things that we have to tackle every year with the NCDA, but it's working. We've continued to grow year after year. We get more members year after year, and we really are seeing our reach expand.
Yeah, that's I wonder if that's going to change again the perception that we out here on the Southwest and West Coast that aren't as fortunate to be part of the NCDA. I wonder if that's going to change our whole perspective of it, because again, from the outside looking in, we see a massive pool of players. We see a system that has existed since 2005, and we see all these amazing things coming out of you guys. So it's like, well, why doesn't it just continue and conform to what we think is the final stop? And I hope people are listening to that, because I feel like that really answers a lot of questions, both asked and unasked as well. Just continuing to read into Tyler's statements. And he's obviously, he's not coming at this as like a negative stance. I think this is a genuine question a lot of people have that he's willing to ask, and I hope that your answers actually satisfy that and point the discussion more towards what can we do to help. And because again, the NCAA, you guys have your own problems and you guys have your own solutions for those, and that's just been tested over the course of many years. But I wanted to just look over his statements one more time, but I think you covered everything, unless you and feel free to chime in, Jacob and Kevin as well, if there's anything that Felix might have missed. But I think it satisfies a lot of what he was pointing towards. And it's weird because
if elite players are looking for ways to help the NCDA, if you know of a college student who is playing elite, get them to start a club at their school. Help them do that. Reach
out to us. Reach out to us. Let us know.
Yeah, we're happy to help. That's Jacob's entire job, is helping people start clubs at their schools.
It's a complicated process. Like, that's the one thing I wish people would understand, is every school is very different. It takes a lot. There's some schools that make it hard on you to really even get it done. There's some schools that make it very easy. But yeah, we want to help. We find a school every year that we're like, why didn't we know about this sooner? And there's always a way to make it better. Just let us know.
Yeah, if you have a college student on your team in elite, you're not losing anything by having them play in the NCDA. Our seasons are opposite. There's a little bit.
You're only gaining from it.
Yeah, they will get full exposure all year long to dodgeball, consistent practice. There's nothing wrong with that. The NCDA is one of the few places where you can have full legitimate practices 2 or 3 times a week with a full team 7 months out of the year. You don't get that in a lot of elite teams. I know some elite teams are active all year round, but I know in the North, there's some players that show up at round 1 that haven't thrown a ball since nationals.
Yeah, God bless those guys. That just they don't put the time in, and some of them thrive, and some of them you can tell, like, hey, you look like you're a little rusty there.
Right.
Yeah, there's quite a bit I wanted to cover with you, Jacob, since you were on here, about recruitment and about helping expand, and kind of just show you like my perspective, because we tried to do this last year by introducing you to some of the locals here in Phoenix. And man, that could be a whole nother can of worms that I do want to open, but I do want to save that maybe for like another time, especially like the recap, if you guys are willing to kind of open that up and say, okay, this is the pre-cap, this is what was going into the nationals. Now that the nationals has happened, now this is what we can do, and this is what the outlook is moving forward. And I think we can kind of touch up on some of the questions that we might have left out, and also any follow-ups. I think I saw a couple of notifications pop up while we're recording. So yeah, so there's just a lot of themes that we kind of covered and danced around and touched on. And I definitely want to get into more of the recruiting and give it its due, Jacob. But I think what we'll do is we'll kind of move that towards the recap after the event has happened. But before I do that, before we start to wrap up, I do want to just kind of give you guys an open forum for any pertinent information that we should know about or may have glossed over or haven't covered. And we'll start with you, Kevin, if there's anything last minute you wanted to say before we close.
I think that pretty much what sums it up is tune into the Mad City mainstream media live stream that we're going to have on Sunday. I think that there's a lot of people that might be curious about the NCDA, and they maybe haven't even seen what our league is looking like lately, and maybe they haven't seen a game since 2014 or something. So it would be cool to have people tune in and really see how much we've developed over the years and see what our product is like these days. But overall, I think Felix really summed it up well, where we stand as a league, what our thoughts are on the direction that we want to go. And I mean, look, what it comes down to is we all love dodgeball. We all want to see it succeed. And I think the main thing for me, and I think about this sometimes, I say it to different people when it comes up in conversation, but main thing for me is I just want to see the sport get to a place where I'm not good enough to even consider playing it. You know, I want it to get as popular as basketball, as popular as football, where you know, every college in the country has a team and they're putting the games on television and all of that. And it's something where a player of the athletic skill of myself would not even consider trying out for a team because I'm not good enough. There's all these really great athletes that are choosing dodgeball as their sport. And I hope that, you know, the NCDA, and I'm confident that the NCDA is a big part of putting dodgeball in that direction and having that bright future that we all know and are confident that dodgeball can have. So, I mean, that's really my final thoughts. We're really excited about the future of the NCDA, and we have a pretty specific plan of what we see in terms of the future. So we're excited with where we're at, and we're excited with where we're going.
Awesome. And scary thought, man. I've seen what you're capable of, and the thought of you feeling like you're not adequate to contend with the future athletes is I'll be watching that safely from my couch. I can't get injured anymore, but well said, man. How about you, Felix?
I guess the main thing that I always try to stress is that more dodgeball is better dodgeball. Get out there, play different styles. I invite anyone to play in pinch divisions. Try it out at nationals this year, wherever it's going to be. I really want to see more people play it, and same goes for the NCDA players that are going to be listening to this. Try foam, try no sting, try open, try everything you can, because you never know what you're going to find. In Columbus, for some reason, foam is huge, and I started playing foam about 2 years ago when I started getting more involved with the community rec centers here, and I've actually come to like it, and I'm not ashamed to say that. But it's about trying new things. So use the time, the opportunity you have while you're still healthy and you're not pulling muscles when you're bending over to pick up balls like I am, to try new sports, try new forms of dodgeball. Do everything you can just to stay involved and watch the sport get to the point where Kevin described.
Yeah, just get as much as you can. Yeah, that's funny because foam is growing on me rapidly. Like you, I'm kind of ashamed to admit it after all the crap I've been talking about it. But at the end of the day, if you're playing dodgeball, it's not a bad day. How about you, Jacob?
It's fun.
Yeah, that's always gonna be fun.
Still dodgeball. That's all it comes down to. It's still dodgeball. It's fun.
Exactly. Jacob, how about you? Any last thoughts?
I mean, these guys pretty much covered it, but I mean, man, it's a good time. I mean, I love Elite, and I love the guys I play with. I mean, but still some of my favorite memories from college all together, and I was in a bunch of different things, a fraternity, multiple different clubs. I mean, my big thing still was the competitiveness of it. So, I mean, Kevin really hit it on the head. I mean, I would love to see it grow to a point where I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'd rather sit on my couch and watch it than play. So these guys really said it very well. I mean, it's really a testament to what we have now. So I'd really love to see it get to a point where, yeah, it's mainstream.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I saved the most pressing question for last. I think it's the theme of this year. Thank you, Sean Anderson and Sergio Leone. But Team Taco or Team Pizza? Jacob, you're up.
Man, you know what? I'm just glad you prepped me for this question, or else I'd be stuck on it for like 20 minutes. I'm gonna have to go with Team Taco.
Wow, Team Taco.
Are we talking about Taco Fall, or are we just talking taco?
Just, do you prefer tacos over pizza?
Oh, okay. Yeah, Team Taco.
Wow. I think Taco's winning. I don't know if you're keeping track of the score, Sergio, but we're gonna have to start keeping some stats because it's been Team Taco dominant for the past couple of recaps. How about you, Felix? Team Taco or Team Pizza?
Pizza all the way.
There we go.
All the way.
There we go.
I will. I don't care what kind of pizza it is. Brooklyn style, deep dish, whatever. Just give it to me.
Combo breaker. Okay, thank God. Streak is over. How about you, Kevin? Taco or pizza?
I will go pizza. Shout out to Sergio and Sean, whoever came up with this. The NCDA formally thanks you for that. Awesome. I'm gonna listen to the end of every single episode now, even if I don't listen to the whole thing, just to find out what side everyone's on.
We gotta know. I think we'll tally them up, and by the end of the year, we'll announce the winner. And
aren't there jerseys or something for this too?
I think Sean created some jerseys that were taco ridden, and
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, if Team Taco wins, Sean, if you're listening, I'll owe you something if Team Taco wins. Just because I think you and Sergio started this, so I'll figure out what to do with Sergio. But we'll make a game out of it. But guys, awesome! Thank you so much for giving me your time, and Jacob, thank you so much for initially reaching out to me in the past and putting this together, man. I think I'm more jazzed for the NCDA than I've ever been, and I would like to think I knew the most about it just from following you guys from the Southwest, just pining for the day where we'll have that here, and definitely want to go into how to make it happen with you in the recap or in a future episode. But yeah, I think this was a great episode. I think you guys covered a lot. I hope people are hyped for the event. I hope people watch and tune in and just see what you guys are about. And if it comes anywhere near to what you guys have discussed, it's going to be awesome. So thank you guys so much.
Hey, thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Everyone, make sure you tune in on Sunday.
For sure. Don't miss it. Alrighty, so that was a pretty thorough and I want to say comprehensive pre-cap of the NCDA championships that's coming up, I think within a couple days, depending on the release of this episode. And definitely wanted to spend some more time delving into the NCDA. I know I kind of did that with Rebecca when I interviewed her a couple episodes ago, and definitely wanted to kind of build off of the episode that I recorded last year with Felix and Kevin. And guys, thank you so much for hopping on and lending your time and providing more insights. I don't think I've ever been more psyched for an NCDA event as I have now, and I'm definitely doing my best to tune in when I can while I'm out playing Army. I'm really bummed I actually won't be able to watch the Mad City stream because it just sounds like it kind of echoes the good old days when I was watching Fox Sports Network clips of the NCDA back in 2007 and 2008 and just wondering, when is Dodgeball going to have its time? Like, when are we going to see that on a mainstream level? And I think with Mad City and I think with some of the movements that we've all been making, I think we're just getting that much closer. And I really want to see how some of these teams play out. Like, I want to know if Towson's going to take over. I want to know if Grand Rapids is going to continue establishing their dynasty, all puns intended. And yeah, I can't wait to see how it plays out, even if I'm catching up on Sunday nights. Anyway, if you're still listening, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you all for the comments and the questions that you submitted. If we didn't get to them this go around, we definitely will during the recap. So if you have follow-on questions that came up as a result, please feel free to post them. Don't wait for me to put the call in. I will definitely get to them as they come by. And for those of you that are listening that are traveling to the championships, are going to play in the championships, good luck, travel safe. And I cannot wait to hear about how you guys do. So without further ado, have a great rest of your evening, a great rest of your week, a great weekend, and we'll see you next time. Do you like me my clean rating? Okay,
that is disgusting.
That's going in the bloopers.
Kevin, did you take your phone into the bathroom with you? No.
Yeah, sorry.
Disgusting.
Awesome.